Hi, everyone. I've got Aleshia Jordan here with me. Aleshia, can you give us a little background on your process improvement journey that you've had?
Oh,
Welcome.
wow. I actually started in Lean Six Sigma back in 1998, 99-ish.
Okay.
So I'm
Yeah.
old school, right? Lean Six Sigma, where they were both married together. They weren't separated then.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and I went straight to black belt. I'm a college grad. I went to Howard University, so I was a finance major.
Hmm.
I earned my MBA, master's, all that in business, right? So I'm a financial supervisor, and they asked for go-getters in the organization to go for this Lean Six Sigma training. I knew nothing about what that was back then, but I was eager to go and learn. And after spending several years working on my black belt, I just loved it. I have literally been in this field. Now a master black belt, been a master black belt for several years now, multiple years. But I have literally been in this field ever since. So it's kind
Same
of
here.
a
Yeah.
background in quality. And I've used it everywhere in almost every industry, as an employee, as an entrepreneur. It's just I'm very passionate about what I do. I mean, I train at certified belts to this day. It just works. It's problem solving, right? And it's helping people. You really have to have a sincere desire to help others. And that's what it's all about.
So, what led you into finance, and then you said that they're looking for go-getters. So, what kind of made you say, "I think that's something I want to go into," or it sounds interesting?
You know what? I was working, like I said, I was in in finance, in a role, financial role. I was an accounting supervisor. And I was just coming up with all these great ideas on things we could do to make things better, things we could do to lean out the process. And at that time, the leadership saw it in me, right? So I was one of few that was selected to go for this training. And I just enjoyed, there was nothing like sitting in a room, helping people document on a wall, like process mapping, right? What they do every day. They didn't even realize it, what they do every day. And then identifying all the muda, right? All the defects in the process and using the tools that we facilitate on every day with a cross-functional team, right? It was nothing like seeing the looks on everybody's faces to see so much duplication of work, to see so much asking those tough questions like, why are we even doing this? So much waste in the process. And then to work with the people that do the work every day and actually listening to them give us those ideas about how to redesign, how to streamline, how to get things done quicker, faster, easier, how to meet the customer demands. And then back then, we actually brought the customers to the table. I mean, they were a part of our Kaizen events. And so it was like full disclosure because all we wanted to do was to make life easier for our customers, right? And as well as, increase shareholder value with the company. So I just love that. And from that, I've taken that on I even within my own personal life, I use those tools. Like 5X my garage, right? Incorporate the tools with everything and so you mentioned, like, for example, I started a not-for-profit called Our Daughters Inc. back in St. Louis in 2011. And the whole goal was to work with girls ages 8 through 16. And we got up to about 45 girls with helping them truly understand the value of creating their own story, writing their own story and through showing them skills, right, in self-love, self-development, healthy relationships. We conducted workshops and seminars, and we used the Lean Six Sigma tools. It was built upon the methodology of problem solving. We started with define. Okay, let's do a charter. What is our mission with each girls, right? With each of the girls. How do we measure the success? We talk to the parents. What are some issues you see that you've observed that we can work on, right? And then we worked with the girls and using the tools. We actually used for healthy relationships, we actually had them use a process map to draw out their life, key things that they remember, with the functional groups being the people in their life, identify any defects in that process that they experience, or pain points, so as we called it in that process, and then worked on coming up with a plan to correct relationships, to mend relationships, to mend internal brokenness. And so it was nothing like seeing the tools that we use every day in corporate America towards helping people solve everyday problems. And that's what made the company that I have now, Virtualocity, and I'm transferring that, forwarding up now. I started Virtualocity in 2014. I just had this vision, and God gave me this vision that everything will one day be virtual, right? So that's why I coined it Virtualocity. But even with Virtualocity today, I host workshops where I'm using the tools, the template, a lot of the tools that we use, strategy sessions. I help people come up with their mission statements in life, their charter for different initiatives that they want to work on. I actually use a SWOT analysis for self-development. So I managed to use a lot of the tools for Lean Six Sigma to help people in every arena of life. And we came up with, not only do we train and certify in the yellow belt, green belt, black belt, but we also have a master black belt as well in life coaching. Because I was able to take the training and modify it to fit the needs, the same book of knowledge, right? To fit the needs of helping someone look at their life and assess life and making improvements and problem solving, healthy relationships, everything and above. So it's kind of like been the core of what I do, right? That I'm most compassionate about, and all the businesses that I've worked on is the same, right? So I've incorporated several not-for-profits, again, utilizing the tools because they work. They work if done effectively, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow, that's great. Just to be able to tie it to people's personal lives, I think that's really key, and it's very applicable. I totally agree. This is something that you can take, and maybe not as complicated as some business problems, but you can apply these same approaches and techniques to our personal lives. And we are wasting time in our personal lives all the time, missing out on
Yes.
whatever other time we want to be doing with that, instead of searching for stuff and looking for things we've lost, all the other
That's
frustrations.
That's true. The mission workshop, I call it the kingdom workshop, right? But the mission workshop, actually, what I actually did it participated, me and my grown kids, but they're still my babies, right? I took them through it initially before I rolled it out to, the world. And literally, it helped change our lives. I speak for myself personally. It changed my life. I wrote out my mission statement on a boards. I call them mission boards, right? Difference between a vision board, mission board. I did my entire analysis on myself, just me knowing who I am, the value of knowing who you are, and then I came up with a strategy. Like, what was important for me? What are the key things that I need to do for the rest of my life that's aligned with what I believe to be my purpose-driven life, right? Through that conversation and relationship that you have with your higher power, right? So that's what I did. So if there's anything outside of that, I've learned to set boundaries, and I've learned to say no, right? So now, I have a clear path. I'm 55 years old, right? I need to spend my time wisely. So now I have a straight path of what it is I want to work on or what I want to do. And I don't have a problem with saying, no, I can't. It's outside of my strategy. No, I can't. It's not a part of my mission statement.
That's very important. I mean, yeah, we get more connections, we
So,
meet people.
right?
It's easy to take on more stuff. It's like, I could do that. Yes, I could take
Yeah.
that on or do that. And it's like, it's so hard to say no. But I like that you've kind of realize what you're driving towards, and that makes it easier because you see that alignment to your mission.
Which is what, like, and you think about in Lean Six Sigma, and I've worked with, like I said, all times though. You can look me up on LinkedIn. I've worked in all kinds of corporations, right? And what the biggest, I tell you, the biggest risk for any project is not properly defining the scope up front. If you were to ask me out of all the projects I've worked, and think about it, I've worked on a million over 25 years, right? For all kinds of companies. I've even worked in churches, right? So I've used this methodology in almost every arena that I could think of. And anytime there was a project that did not get executed, it was because there wasn't a clear, agreed upon scope up front. So I mean, it got to the point where over time, the question was asked is, what are we trying to solve? What is our big why? And then wait a minute, not just what is my big why, but do we all agree?
Yes.
All the stakeholders at the table, do we all agree? Right? Because that sets the focus and the tone for the project. Because that old, the old saying, boiling the ocean, we don't want to boil the ocean. That's a famous Lean Six Sigma term.
Yep.
Right? It's so true because so many times those projects, people would throw in different things and we didn't know how to set the boundaries, the start and stops of the project and have some incremental successes versus trying to, deploy a 20-year project. I'm over exaggerating, but it's the same way with principles as it relates to things in our life. If we could focus on the problem that we're trying to solve, and the key is, as a master black belt, I'm just facilitating change. I tell all the belts I train, and I trained and certified a lot of belts in my career, tons. And I tell them, what makes us different than any other business consultant is we facilitate change. We don't come in and say, okay, you do this, you do that, you do that. We talk to the people that do the work every day. And we help ask the right questions to have them come up with their improvements. They know. And that's what makes it motivates the employees. We tap into the intrinsic motivation of people that do the work every day. Now, I will tell you this, there's a lot of belts that just don't have the relationship side of it. They're strictly technical.
Yep, that's very true.
With me, they're strictly technical. And that's what differentiates a lot of Virtualocity. We have the relationship. We have the personality. I'm not trying to toot our horns, but I take pride in relationships because the only way to build the success in using these tools and principles or to run in a room and run a Kaizen event is to have the relationship with the people in the room and let them know that you want to hear from them. Because a lot of employees just don't feel heard. And it's the same way when you're doing self-development. I'm listening to my customers. I had someone literally call me today and say, hey, Aleshia, I'm having a struggle. I got this not-for-profit. I'm trying to figure out how to word things. I'm trying to figure out what to do. And then I said, you know what? You know what you want to do. I'm going to sit here and listen. I want you to tell me about you. I want you to tell me what you want. And tap into that motivation to get them started. And you will be surprised what a person can do.
But yeah, it's almost like giving them the authority to do what they want or change something that they didn't think could be changed or try something that they didn't think they could try, and it's not that we have the authority, but we're kind of challenging maybe their thought process about why they felt stuck or unable to do that, or maybe weren't motivated until you start learning and seeing that there is a better way.
Well, this is a discipline that listens, right? It has to be done right, because, we know, Brian, as well, that a lot of organizations say they want Lean Six Sigma and they say they want the training, right? But that it's still that governing body, right? That don't necessarily listen. And then they say we failed. No, it's not what happened. Lean Six Sigma is about listening to people that do the work every day. And when we win, the team wins. it's not Aleshia that win. It's really funny because if the project don't work, it's the people that led the project, right? But if it works, it's the we. So we changed the paradigm of that, and everything is a team. To me, there's no such thing as a bad project. Even if it fails, you've learned something.
Yep.
Let people understand that it's okay. It is okay to make a mistake. That's why we're here. And in any not-for-profit setting I'm in, self-development setting, for-profit setting, the first thing I start off with every meeting is, it is okay to make a mistake. I'm not encouraging that, right? But we are problem solvers. Let's figure out what we can do to focus on the process to be preventive. To me, the most underutilized tool within our discipline is mistake proofing. To me, every organization should sit in a room and say, what can we do to prevent this from happening? Every mistake in the building.
Yeah.
We started that way, which is why automation came in, right? Think about it. When I started, we were still running runners around the building with paper. But somebody said, what could we do to, do? I was trained in Western Union. Remember that old Western Union Kaizen? That was my black belt project.
Oh, wow. Really? Okay. Yeah.
That was my black, you can Google it. But yeah, and that's what it's all about making a difference, and letting people know that we can fix the process. Because in most cases, it's the process and not get caught up in the people,
Yeah.
right? So
yeah, and I think you see that also when people are setting goals on the project. It's like,
yep.
well, let's improve it 5%. Something very, very safe and meaningless in the big scheme. And it's like there's some beatdown that has happened to this group that they're afraid to fail at some goal they set. It's like they'd rather hit a very small goal to be safe and not try something or be
radical.
Yeah, radical. It's too scary. They're going to get in trouble for not meeting the goal if they state it. That's something I know we have to kind of help break down that barrier, because otherwise you'll never get that transformational change.
That's absolutely true. That's true. Or arbitrary, like you said, just come up with a number without even looking at the process. But what made Lean Six Sigma so much fun was people were doing that, right? They would say, okay, this process is taking us 45 days and we need it done in 2 days because our competitors are doing it. So I want 2 days. Without even looking at the process. And we would map the process and say, well, okay, we're waiting on a third-party vendor. That's about 2 weeks. But you have to look at the process, right?
And the data.
You'll be surprised how many people don't look at the process or the data. And they're saying this is what it better be.
Yep. It's wild.
Oh yeah, but I love it. I love it. And even when it comes to like the not-for-profit, we use data. Lean Six Sigma is data driven, and data speaks for you. And if I'm talking to a person that says, I have a problem getting to work on time at 8:00. I have them track every day, right? What time you've been getting to work, what time you get up. I mean, literally, you can do it in everyday life. And that's why it works in any arena in solving problems and life coaching.
Yeah, I think that's a very good tie-in. I went through a Toyota Kata coaching session with someone, and we worked on some fitness goals I had. And I knew the concepts and stuff, but it was so nice to have a coach walk me through and make me challenge, like, well, how do you know that's going to work? And how are you going to measure that? It's like, dang, you got me there. Yeah. All right. Let me think about that a little bit and be very diligent about the things I was doing and tracking what I was doing. And just that structure is very key. Even if you think you know this stuff or you've taken some classes before, I find I can really help people. I'm sure you felt the same way with the coaching of them through that step. Say, hold on, you're jumping too fast. Where did you get that? Let's slow it down. Are you going to measure this when you're done before you just jump to something? Especially if this is something important. If it's just reorganizing your silverware drawer, maybe you don't have to track and measure that. But if you're saying I'm going to sleep better, we're going to measure this. And what time did you go to bed? What time did you get up? And let's look at that data and not just say, I'm going to do these things and hope that works.
That's right. How do you know if you improved?
Right.
Without data, how do you know if you've made a difference without data? Right. Yeah. So data is definitely important in almost anything that we do. Right. And it holds its credibility. You will be surprised how many, if you've been doing this for a while, people make so many assumptions without data. And the biggest thing in the room is to come up with the data.
I love we have this, but no one's ever put it into an electronic file or looked at the data. Like, give me that. I want to be the first one to show you what your process is doing for the first time.
Absolutely.
Speaking of working with high school girls, it sounds like I was just thinking about this the other day about what we are teaching versus what they're being taught in school. And it sounds like you're trying to fill in, I think, as a gap of problem solving and facilitation, and something like is missing in the curriculum in the high schools, problem solving and defining a problem and working together as a team, and like some of these things we should already have that skill set coming to work, and they're missing, and that's why we have to provide a lot of that training. So I don't know if any things like that came to mind, like why aren't they learning this in school? Or
I always think about that. Yeah. Actually, I'm an author too. I wrote a book called Lifting the Veil.
And I'll put all the videos you're mentioning and book links and any other ones you want to send me. We'll have show notes for this, so everyone check that out and check out all their great work.
Yeah, and one of the key things that I'm happy you mentioned that was I'm encouraging. I set up a foundation for my late husband, which is what my book Lifting the Veil is all about. It's what I went through in coming through grief. But I actually write in the book. It was actually a book I had started on previously, but it all came to this one, timing, right? We talked about timing. But I actually write in the book how it's so important to start early with our children and understanding certain things and teaching them things early at home about who they are and life and loving and knowing who they are and that they're truly made in the image of God, right? Starting early, like we do anything else, right? But we kind of ingrain that in them and talk to them about problem solving and all these different things that are important in life. But I kind of share that, and you got to get the book. The book is deep. The book is deep.
Okay.
But it was initially a book to help people that are going through grief. But everybody that reads it, they're like, Aleshia, this is life-changing. Because I ended up incorporating things. It was my story, but I ended up incorporating all kinds of stuff from my childhood all the way up. And so one of the things that I started was a foundation called the Victor A.E. Jordan. That's my late husband that passed away January 26th of 20. And I started a foundation. And one of the things that we're doing with the foundation is encouraging more authors, more people to write, more people to think, more people to own their story, create their story. And our goal is to focus on children. And one of the things that I'm encouraging kids to do is to write those problem-solving books. Because kids, think about it, think like a fifth grader. I mean, they are amazingly smart. So I'm encouraging and inspiring through the foundation more authors, starting with that age group, to get them to start thinking about problem solving. I tell my kids all the time, like I said, they're adults, but they're still kids to me. But I tell them all the time, the best thing to have in the world today is a problem that needs to be solved. Because you may just be the one to come up with that answer.
Yeah.
A lot of times we sit in a room with everybody else and we complain about the same problem. Maybe it's that problem is waiting on you to solve it. And that's how change happens. That's how you create generational wealth, right? You
Yeah.
come up with an answer to something that needs to be solved. And so if you kind of think about everything that I've been working on with my business Virtualocity, the Arthur Expos that I'm doing, I've done one here in Florida. I got one coming up in St. Louis in a couple of weeks. So I'm traveling with that. Everything is really getting people to think through and analyze, write, think through problem solving, be creative. And all of that truly comes from all the skills that I've happened to learn over the last, 25, 30 years of my life. I'll be honest with you. And the core of it is a part of that strategy plan that I put together. So I definitely would like more people to spend more time using our tools towards a mission statement, a strategy, doing a SWOT analysis on themselves. Those are the kind of things we're doing to help lead people towards coming up with those things that they want to do to be more meaningful and purposeful in the world today. Because all we have is the time we have, and we don't know how long that is, right? So, and
Yep.
time is a very precious, very precious. So
Every year it gets more precious. Yep.
yes, yes,
I just turned 50. Yeah. So it's meaningful right now because it's
yeah,
like I'm on the back end probably. So um, what am I working on? And am I making progress to say I accomplished the things I wanted to at the end of my life? And you have to start thinking about that and say, well, how do I work backwards to get there?
that's
And
right.
first, do I know what I want to end up with? And how do I get there? And this podcast is part of that. But
That's
that
right.
didn't come overnight. Like that took me years to figure out.
That's
And but it makes it easier when you have something clear like that to work towards. But that's not
right.
easy. It's I feel fortunate to feel like I've figured out something that really makes me excited, and I feel like there's a gap there. But I think a lot of people struggle with that, and I think
We
that
do.
could be something that your workshops could help them figure out.
Absolutely. Because it goes back to asking those questions, right? Like you said, the coach. I had coaches in my life that had me question things and ask me questions that made me think. And I think that's the value of what we do in this field is, I used to want to be a lawyer when I was in college. I went to Howard. I was like, well, wait a minute, maybe I want to do, have a business major just in case, right? And then I said, well, you know what? I ended up being the closest that I could have been to a lawyer. But this one is a lot more enjoyable because I'm actually a part of facilitating process improvement change and change with people that they came up with. And so I'm kind of like the helper, right? The facilitator. And so I appreciate this role a lot more, but I still get a chance to ask the tough questions. I'm the one in the room that'll ask, but nobody else. If the elephant is in the room, I'm going to be like, does everybody see that elephant? And
And some
everybody.
people don't. That's the funny. That's great. Yeah. Something else he said sparked a thought in my head. You mentioned people who might be looking to solve a problem, but what you also said is this skill set helps people bring the right people together because you can't really solve big problems yourself. But if you have the skill to bring diverse groups of people together, have them see the problems from different perspective, build momentum around it, like you don't have to know the answer. You don't have to have this brilliant idea that came to you overnight in a dream. It's like you just got to get all the experts and people who live that process and live that product or service, who live in that world to help them speak it and talk about it and share their experiences. And in that pain that comes out of that is solutions that
It
you
is.
can apply to that. It's not like this, you have to come up with this invention. There's so much of just collaboration and processes that can be done to make things so much better. So I think that can help entrepreneurs and future business owners to build the next great product or service.
Absolutely. I always say, part of my ground rules is never leave under a silent disagreement. Mm-hmm. Because what you feel we may just need to hear. That's why we, like you said, when we facilitate change, we want a person representative of anyone that touched the process, right? Each functional group. We want a cross-functional team of experts in a room, subject matter experts. So if you're invited to the table, we want to hear from you, right? You're not there to just take in what everybody had to say and leave and say, oh, they didn't know what they were talking about. You'd be surprised how often that happened, right? A bunch of But I always say you're invited to the table because we want your input. You're invited to the table because we want to know what's broken, because we can't fix anything if we don't know it's broken. If we're coming up with an idea and you don't agree with it, we want to know why you don't think, because you may just have something that this team needs to hear. It is so important to come with no levels in the room and be transparent and honest about with that sincerity of wanting to make a difference and to feel that your voice makes the difference. And I think that effective facilitators that should be their role. Their role is to make everyone feel at the table that they're heard. To me, the greatest strength you can have is your ability to create a team. That's a true leader. A true leader is the ability to create the right team, and the team wins. Not the leader. The team wins.
And that's a change from how most people approach it. It's like, how do I do well? How do I get my team to help me look good and get a promotion, right? And it's so backwards, but
it is.
If you make your team successful, you won't get the credit necessarily, but for the right people, they'll know that that's how it happened. And that is actually how you get the promotion, is they see your team succeed. They know that it's meant, like they're there to win with their team. That comes out in their results and performance. The team's excited. They see it.
They do.
Yeah. So it's actually the right way to do it.
But that's true, because some leaders, and I've seen this a lot in my career, if the team, like I said, we mentioned this earlier, if the team is doing great, the leader is saying, oh my God, look at what I did. If the team messes up or project fails, well, this is what they did. In order for this to work, it has to be a team, whether we win or lose. Whether we win or lose, whether we pass or fail, we're a team. And you know what? If we fail, this is what we learned, and we're going to do better the next time. So to me, a true leader shows resilience. A true leader lets their team members know that we are in it together. This is a us thing. We win together. And to me, that's effective Lean Six Sigma. Yeah. That's effective quality. That's effective. And those, in all my years, in all the companies I work with, that's when I seen our quality discipline and methodology. I mean, we just took over the company, really, with change. And when I say we, it wasn't the belts. It was the team. And we would put together the storyboards for the team, and we would showcase the team, and it was this and it was that. That was true quality process improvement and change. And we were back then, we started just doing strictly problem solving. Sit in a room and think tank. What can we do? I mean, if you look around at the world today and the technology that exists today, the companies that exist today, the things that we have today that we didn't have, like you mentioned you're 50, I'm 55, so we both know, right? The things we didn't have then were because we had that generation to start to think and solve problems, and people were listening and things were heard, right? And so now we're at the point now where we need to continue that. We need to push that. Because I mean, I tend to think, I had someone tell me the other day, don't you think Lean Six Sigma is old? And I said, old? No, Lean Six Sigma isn't old. I think the philosophies or the management styles behind it have changed somewhat, right? But the discipline in itself, the way we were trained in the very beginning, worked. And it works if you will continue to let us do it that way. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, tools have been around for some 100 years sometimes,
Yeah, they
some of
work.
these techniques, and they work if they're employed the right way. And, I want to reiterate on the team part, because sometimes I think people think my department's my team. And I think what we're trying to do is say your product or service is your team. And you might not even be the manager of the people that are actually on your team. You have to influence them to be part of the big picture to say our customers' success is what we're going for. That's how we win. And we win together. It's not sales, it's not production, it's not service and support, it's not program management, it's not IT. We're all in the team of helping this customer get some product or service. And if we win as that team, a cross-functional team, that's how it works. If we win as the IT team, or the e-business or IT group wins and everyone else fails, that's not a win, because the company and the customers didn't win.
That's
So
right.
if they look at it that way, then that is how the team should be formed.
And you have to remind them of the customer piece. Like, wait a minute, what about the customer? You
Kind
have
of
to
important.
how many companies I've worked with, I'm saying, what about the customer? They're just thinking about cutting costs, right?
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute. This started off on meeting the demands and the requirements of the customer, upper and lower control limits, and understanding what the requirements are. Let's go back to the basics.
Yep, I think you're right. That gets overlooked many times. It's
Yeah.
too much internal focus on costs or internal metrics that have been developed that, aren't really team-based metrics. They're department metrics or individual metrics. And that's where you get into trouble. Like a sports team, the scoreboard is the end result. That's if you win or lose. If someone has a great performance, but the team loses, those aren't good metrics to track. It's the team outcome. So it doesn't matter if they hit their career high in points if the team's losing.
That's
So
right.
we need to know that that's nice to trend and track, but the end goal is wins.
That's right. That is so true. Yeah.
Any other examples of, I really like how you've ingrained this work right into the nonprofit work you're doing, teaching people how this stuff applies to their individual lives. I think that's the best way people can get excited about this is improve yourself, practice these things in your own personal life, try 5S at home, track your sleep times, look at your budgets from a analytical perspective, Pareto chart those out, and process map the chores and activities you have. I mean, I think
Right.
that's
That's life
so
coaching.
easy. Yeah, that's really cool. And then that gets them, I think, excited to see where else can I apply this. And they can share their journey that they went through and say,
Absolutely.
this applies to the way we process these invoices at work too. That's really
Even
cool.
like relationships, it works in
Yes.
relationships, healthy relationships. We can't keep doing the same thing over and
No.
expect different results. Something has to change. We need a shift. We
I
need a
think root
special
cause,
class, right?
yes. Root cause analysis is
That
very
average.
important. Very important for relationships. Yeah. Why are they mad at me? What did I do?
Absolutely. Let's look at it from different perspectives, right? Let's get voice of the customer. Why does everybody,
Yes.
surprised how many people say, why does everybody think XYZ about me? I'm like, well, let's find out.
Yeah. gather some data, have
Before
some
you
tough
deny it,
conversations.
let's get some data,
Yeah,
let's do a 360 analysis on you, right? Let's figure out what the stakeholders are saying,
yeah.
you know. So, I mean, it's fun stuff. And I mean, I love it. I think that's what differentiates Virtualocity because that's what we take pride in it, and so really coming in new to the market, because this is a new market for me now and completely full time for me now. So, where before I was kind of like part time. So, but I'm very passionate about this. I think that this makes all the difference in the world when it comes to helping people that want to be helped too. The difference between life coaching a lot of times is the people that come to us for help and coaching and workshops, they want it. It's not like we're in the company, and the leader is forcing it down their employee's throat. But when people knock on your door and say, hey, you know what, I need some help trying to figure this out, that makes all the difference in the world because they're coming at it with an open mind and they're there to learn and they care about making a difference in solving whatever problem they want to have versus do what your leader says, or this is what we have to do, or this is the flavor of the month. So it's actually fun. A lot more fun are working with people that come to you because they really want to make a difference. And they believe in the methodology. But as mentioned, the belt's ability to relate to people of all levels, with diversity, have the personality, care about the relationship, and not just be so technical. You'd be surprised how many people belts put form over substance. But we got to take it from this form to put it in this form to this form, and you lose people, right? So when I train, I coach, I certify all belts. So if you know anybody, send them over.
Okay.
One of the things I train on is because you mentioned a very key word earlier when you said influence. You have to, it's not about titles, it's about influence. Remember that old book, Win Friends and Influence? What was it by?
Yep.
But it's so
Probably.
important to be able to relate to people and influence people to be a part of the change. And that's by tapping into their intrinsic motivation and building that sincere relationship that you really want to help. Like, I really, truly want to help you. And to help me, I help myself when I help you, right? And I'm learning through this too. But we're working together. We're both learning together. It's a team. That in addition to the technical skills, right? We know the stats. We can go to Minitab, we can create, do our sample t-test, then we can do our, hypothesis testing. All that is great data driven. But how do you take that and then communicate that effectively to someone so that they understand it, that they understand and they enjoy it, right? It's not just statistics, right? But they enjoy it, it makes sense, and you can influence change by making sure you're sticking to the principles by building the relationship. That's what differentiates us in the industry. And so I'm training more and more belts to do just that. I believe that that's been the cornerstone of my success in the field. It's not just technical, but along with it, I have the relationships. I care about the relationships. And believe it or not, that's hard to find, especially with people that are so technical. Nothing against so technical people. But in order for this to work in the not-for-profit field and work in making a difference in changing lives, you gotta have both.
It is a gap. I mean, the change management is, I've seen, a couple organizations that really had a whole dedicated section of training around change management, but
yes,
it's few and far between. It's usually more technical, and there's some, obviously a lot of the tools you have to have a team together to collaborate and have discussions, but there isn't a lot really set up for some people are going to, be resistant. How are you going to overcome this and be prepared for this and have those dialogues and reach out to this person proactively, not wait for them to get upset or shut down or
Right.
complain, that you have to have that skill set, like you said, or you're going to have to do a lot of rework afterwards to fix and mend things. And that's a wasteful. It's not a very efficient way to do it.
When I worked with the government, they actually had tied a change management to the black belt. So on every project, it was a change manager and a black belt. It
That's
made
good.
so much sense. It
Yeah.
just makes sense. Because in order to deploy change, you needed the change management techniques. And so when I learned back in the day, it was a part of our training. I don't know any different. I was certified as change manager, right? I mean, leader, change manager, leader back then, but it was a part of my training. Even now, when we do training, I have a whole section on change management. It often gets left behind, but it's so important because we're talking about making sure people are aware, knowledgeable, the whole ADKAR philosophy, making sure everyone's engaged in a part of the change. And a part of that is about is influencing. How do you influence people? Not influencing them towards the solution you want.
Right.
But influencing them to want to come up and be creative and come up with a solution as a team. I've worked in companies where they already had the solution and they wanted to bring in a belt, make it a Lean Six Sigma project. That's not a Lean Six Sigma project. If you already know what you want to do, that's a just do in my world. You get a project manager and you go do it.
Yep.
If you have a problem that need to be solved, that's when you bring in the belts. That means I don't have a solution.
Yep.
That's the paradigm shift I've seen change. That's what I've seen changed in my years of working. It's getting them back to the basics of, I have a problem, Aleshia, and I don't know what to do. And not, Aleshia, I want you to come in and be a consultant and fix it. No, that's not Lean Six Sigma either. It's, Aleshia, I have a problem. Can you come in and help facilitate my team to come up with a solution? That's when you're on the right track for deploying Lean Six Sigma. And they hire people like that. They hire belts that would agree with that statement. But when the belt is within the organization, that's not the culture. It's still, here's a solution, go put it in place. And you're like, wait a minute. So how do you change the paradigm? And so that's the type of coaching that I like to spend, like you said, we're in the third quarter. I call it the third quarter of life. We're in the third quarter of life. So how do we do that? You got your podcast, you're bringing people on, they're listening, you're coaching, you're training, you're mentoring, and the people that are new to the field, helping them see how it all started and how it should work. And it's really Lean Six Sigma facilitators, they bring their personality to the table. They bring that to the table, not necessarily all the technical skills. That stuff can be learned. Understanding not everybody is a belt, right? Yep. So kind of identifying who the belts are and what type of company to work for. So all that type of coaching and training, I think, is left up to us to do. Because we're the old schoolers, right? That know the difference, that know what should happen. And we're still learning. Oh my goodness, I'm learning something every day. I'm a lifetime learner. So when I'm hosting a workshop, I'm learning from everybody in the room. I'm learning what to do and what not to do.
I can learn from others' mistakes. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the best methodology, right?
No, that's great. Yeah, I agree. I think it's just, there's so much to learn. You could spend your whole life learning DOEs and never learn it all, right? So like we can go so deep in any one of these methods and you could be the expert at that one individual method and you could still never learn everything about it.
Never learn
it's
everything.
Crazy. So, but the other thing I think is something I'm really trying to challenge people on is the idea that they think they have the answer already or the solution. And I said, how do you know that that's your solution? You're just going to project manage that to completion. What led you? Where's your define, measure, analyze for that? Maybe you have define and then you skipped measure, analyze, and now you jump to improve. Where's measure, analyze? How do you know that's going to work? We're going to spend this money. you throw in a number, oh, it's going to save this amount of money. You don't have any data to back it up. You're hoping that the money will fix it. And then at what cost? Something we could have solved so much faster and less expensive and correctly, and engaged people in that process, and not just try to buy a new software program or whatever solution they threw out.
Right. That's right.
So I think that's where we can bring to the table too, is I would tell people, if I was going into a new company, I'd say, show me all your capital projects you got planned. And I want to go through those and see if they've done measure and analyze already.
That's right.
Otherwise, let's cancel those or launch a project to say, back up and show me that this is the right solution before we spend any more money on these kinds of projects.
That is so true. And starting with the whole strategy. I mean, to me, that's what strategy is about.
Yes.
When you know what your values are, your mission statement, and then you pull the metrics and the data to support the key performance indicators in your organization. And then you know your customers' requirements, and you're looking at your key performance indicators. You should be building your project portfolio based upon getting those red liners back to green. Yep. Because that's what you've decided as a team, what your key performance indicators are. It goes back to strategy. You know, when we were old school back in the day, where we would have, even like, for example, we had sales quotas.
Okay.
So we would have like the thermostat on whether we were meeting our quotas, in each of the departments. So we saw what the goal was, right? The goal was to be, grow 80%, right? So we would see a bell would go off. Anytime we hit over, 80%, all the employees would be jumping up and down. The employees was a part of the change. They were a part of the strategy. Nowadays, if you go work for a company, most employees never even seen the strategy. They don't even know what it is. They don't even know what it is. You got to ask, like, what is it? What are the key initiatives? Nobody knows. They're just working, but we're working on projects, and none of the projects are tied to the key initiatives. There's no scoreboard. There's no scoreboard. There's no metrics. But then oh
yeah. Yeah. And part of that is going in and cutting some of those projects. Say, first of all, you're not going to do any of these very well if you've got 20. So what are the 3 you're going to focus on that actually matter, aligned to the strategy? And then you'll actually have time to do those really well and follow the steps and not shortcut and guess at a solution, but methodically go through and get to the right answer. Have those longer conversations with the team, dig deeper into this, really understand it, take time to network and build trust with your team. And that free time helps you do that project so much better, better results.
That is so true. And a lot of people I think what I've heard is that it takes too long. It doesn't. It
doesn't have to.
When you have the right facilitators, it does not take too. You can literally give me 3 to 5 days in a room. We can knock this thing out. 3 to 5 days with a cross-functional team of experts that know this process, a representative from each of those groups. Leave the leaders out the room. We can come up as a team with a solution. It might take us some time to implement, but we can come up with some short, midterm, and long-term incremental solutions. It doesn't have to take too long, right?
Yeah, it takes too long because they're not working on it consistently.
Yeah,
an hour here, an hour there. Oh, I can't get a hold of that person. I'll try next week. Yeah, that's why it takes 6 months or longer, or it never gets done because it's dragged out. Yeah, I like the idea of more Kaizen type activity.
Yep.
Move us through this process. It doesn't have to take that long if you got the right people in the room.
It does not have to. Yeah. And I think that's why I wish what I would want to see is more smaller organizations, like small businesses and not-for-profits organizations, use our tools and methodology. Because they don't realize that they say, oh my goodness, it's too much to bring in a belt, right? But they don't realize it. Go back to Stephen Covey, sharpening the saw. Just bringing in somebody to kind of help you facilitate that change at a smaller level. It can help you see the bigger picture and grow exponentially. I really do feel that that I think we would be more of an asset too in helping small businesses grow or not-for-profits grow. I don't know if they've seen the value as much as corporate has, right?
Yeah, I think your big companies have some improvement program of some sort in various levels of maturity, but they're not going to be, they know that they need that. But yeah, once you get past those medium-sized companies, they
Yeah.
kind of feel like they're too small or it's not that critical
They
or
don't
they're
know
doing
anything about
fine.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So how do you bring more awareness? So that's one of the focuses, my themes, for this year for Virtualocity was bringing more awareness to what we do and going back to the basics, right? How, leveraging the artificial intelligence technology to answer a lot of the questions, right? So I'm leveraging that as well because I think we need to get with the times, and use the current things and technologies that exist today in order to grow the demand in our field to kind of keep it relevant. Because
Yeah.
I think it still is very much relevant. Like I said, it kind of goes back to um, those of us that know the true meaning of Lean Six Sigma and what it's all about to help influence the leaders, right? And helping them understand it and how they can leverage it, and kind of bring back that teamwork, customer driven, data driven philosophy.
Yep.
And how do we drive teamwork more than coming up with a solution that you want, but having the team come up with the solution? Does that make sense? Even with root cause analysis, how do we do root cause analysis by bringing a team together and looking at all the different factors that could have impacted this issue versus you already knowing what you think the solution is. So we want you to do an RCA to get to this solution. I mean, to this cause. That's how we need to change the paradigm of things.
Yeah. And the managers and leaders need to be okay, not having the answers. I think there's pressure that they feel like they're the leader, they have to know how to solve things. It's like you don't. And actually, you're going to make it worse by trying to throw incorrect solutions out there. You have to just create the environment for your team to figure it out and allow them that time to work through it and come up with the answer and then they don't, like, your job becomes easier. Because now you've empowered your team to solve problems and they'll get together and work those out. You don't have to, that burden gets taken off the leader. They can do the strategy and the visions and strategic work that needs to be done and not have to get buried in the day-to-day firefighting anymore. So it's actually makes their job easier too. But once you get over that building of the culture part, which is very tough, but pays off very well.
Any mistake too, right? Nowadays any mistake is a project, and you're like, wait a minute, we're going back to how often does it happen? Yeah. What's the impact when it happens? Prioritize it. Let's do an FMEA.
Yeah. Yeah, what am I going to stop working on to work on this one?
Right.
So yeah, which project needs to get dropped or pushed out? And if we can't, it's not a good business case, why are we doing it?
Right. But no, it's a problem. Go fix it. Well, it only happened one time in 20 years. And so we lose a customer. No. Anyway, go fix it. I don't want to hear about it again. But that's pretty, that's traditional process improvement, right? So we're going to keep recruiting and encouraging more people to leverage these tools so that it remains relevant. I think that's important. And I think that's why it works with self-development and it works with teams that are coming for coaching and workshops where they want strategy. Because that's when they're listening to their employees, or that's when I'm talking to someone that cares because they, like I said, they want it. They're asking for it. So it works in that arena. So the more we can encourage the usage of the discipline, even just the tools, some of the workshops with some of the tools, right? In the not-for-profit arena, I think the better that they will even be. Because I've seen people, including myself, achieve amazing results with using the tools to think through things that matter the most to them.
Did you say that you're working more with individuals working through their own personal mission or?
I'm working with business leaders in the community. I hosted one and coming up with, I call it the mission board, right? They created their own mission board. Had several sessions with that. I'm also encouraging life coach with Lean Six Sigma,
Mhm.
that certification, as well as the yellow belt and the green belt. Promoting more authors, because I think that helps with mental health as well. All of it is around mental health, if you think
Mhm.
about it. Through the Aleshia Jordan Foundation. Uh, Believe it or not, I'm also now a real estate agent.
Oh, wow.
I'm also
Many trades, skills.
selling land and air and buildings, as I call it, but and houses, of course. But kind of added a lot of things to my portfolio, but it was all aligned with my mission board strategy that
Mm.
I put together from the workshop. It works. And I think even if corporations consider that even with their employees, when they're looking at their skill set, their succession planning, where they want to go in the organization, I think it's worth doing. So I see these principles used in every different area and arena, you
Yeah,
know.
I was just thinking like you're working with the individual, but a company would be very smart to send people to your workshops,
Absolutely.
helping the employee get a better idea what their vision, I'm sorry, their mission is. And then they're going to bring that to work, being
Yes.
more focused, aligned to what they want to accomplish. And they're going to be pretty happy with the results they're getting. And it's going to look fondly on that company. They're going to stick around longer. They're going to be engaged, productive. So, like, even if you're focusing on helping the individual, it helps the company with that motivated, inspired employee who now got treated to this opportunity. They're going to be
Absolutely.
loyal. I mean, that's more than maybe, they might have stay a lot, may not, work there forever, but they might stay an extra year because this company did care about me as a person. They didn't just say, help us improve productivity or help us save costs. They said, we want you to, have yourself a better life. I mean, what person wouldn't want to
Work
feel
life,
like that company cares
work-life
about
balance. Yep,
them?
work-life balance is all kind of like a part of that, and mental health. Mental health is it's often left behind when you're working.
Yeah.
People don't pay attention. You handle that somewhere else. But I
Yep.
think I think it's very important when you're spending 80% of your day working for someone or at a corporation or away from home, right?
Yep.
Most average person, they're working on the job until they're 65, 70 years old. I mean, that's a long
It
time.
is.
That's a huge portion of our time in our life. So I think anytime that you're working or you have something in place that can help employees see the value, we talk about what value added and non-value added. To me, if I'm at a place that really care about what's of value to me as a person, the value added in my life, and they're tapping into that, allowing me to leverage the skill sets and the things that I want to do at the workplace, I think that's just a winning organization.
Yep.
It's a winning organization. So hopefully more and more people will reach out.
Yeah.
That is kind of like I've been doing it since 2011 with actually me. I had several other co-founders working with me back then in St. Louis, Missouri, which is where I'm from, born and
Mhm.
raised. And we started off back then, and even today now, I'm going to deploy our daughters again here in Florida. I haven't, like I said, it's kind of been paused,
Yep.
because of the moving. We've been moving around the last few years, but now that I'm kind of like back and stable in one area, I'm going to deploy our daughters again, and
Great.
and still active. It's still very active. It's just more virtual now.
Mhm.
And then I got the Aleshia Jordan Foundation and several other things I'm doing in the community because it's about the community. And then Virtualocity is going to be deploying it. We've always done training in Lean Six Sigma. We've always done, Kaizen events. I specialize in rapid improvement events. That's
Okay.
my thing. Any company I ever worked with, they'll tell you that. I'll come in, I'll put the team together. We specialize in that. But what the differentiator now is, let us leverage these tools to work with your employees on self-development.
Yep.
Maybe you need some life coaches in corporate America.
Definitely. Absolutely, they do. Yeah. What's the so yeah, we could go on for I think a couple more hours. I think
I
definitely
know, I
have
love it.
similar
This is
ideas. Yeah, this is
awesome. I
great.
think this is awesome of you to do. I looked at, your platform. It's amazing. It's certainly a calling, and yeah, I just want to commend you on inviting me to the call and having me be a part of your team.
Yeah,
It's awesome. Thank
yeah,
you.
appreciate all your inputs and great ideas. So, how can people reach you? Want to learn more, connect with you? What's the best
Sure.
way?
I am on everything. I'm on LinkedIn,
Okay.
Aleshia Jordan. You can look me up. I'm also on Facebook, Aleshia Jordan. You'll see me spelling everything.
Okay.
And also my website is Virtualocity
Okay.
LLC.com. The name of my book is Lifting the Veil. I am on Amazon, so you
Okay.
can look me up, just Google me, search me on there. But that's me. So, and I'll send you all that information.
Okay. Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you, and hope we connect and maybe do some work together. It'd be great.
Okay, sounds
All
good.
right.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for your
All
time.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye.